Good afternoon. Welcome back to Shore's Wellness Solutions, the Natural Health and Wellness Center. I'm Dr. Dave, and of course with me,
Amy.
Yep, the brains behind everything here. So today we're going to be talking to you about environmental toxins and your health.
And I want to take a quick shout out to thank our live audience for showing up today. So it is nice to have a live audience with us today. So welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Absolutely awesome.
All right, well, let's get going.
All right.
What do you want to talk about today?
Well, it's time to get started.
All right, well, here we go.
Good.
Well, what does environment mean anyway?
Environment. Well, a lot of times when you think of environment, we're thinking about, well, outside. But what we really should think about with environment is what is around us, whether indoors or outdoors. And outdoors, what are we around? Are we in an urban environment, cities and homes and things like that? Or are we more out in the country and woods and trees and grass? If we're indoors, are we in an open environment where the facility is open and airy, so to speak? Or is it more of a tight and closed, like some of the smaller rooms and spaces?
Yeah, so the environment basically is, and we're talking about toxins, it's everything outside of our body. What are we putting into our body? What are we breathing in? All of those kinds of things. And there's a lot of things to consider when you're looking at environmental toxins.
You said that so much better than I did.
I did not.
You did.
Well, it's necessary for all of us to consider the impact of our external environment and how it can have an impact on our internal bodies.
That's correct.
So, let's define how or where environmental toxins are found.
Everywhere.
There's a lot of places you can find them. So we're going to go over some of the different places you can find environmental toxins and how they'll affect your body.
Awesome.
Start?
Sure.
I can start if you want.
Go ahead. Ladies first.
You may be surprised to learn that environmental toxins are more widespread than pollution and pesticides. In fact, we unwittingly come in contact with dangerous chemicals throughout cosmetics, food, additives, and all kinds of things that we're putting into our body every day, and in places that we don't even know that those toxins exist.
And they estimate that we are exposed to about 80,000 different environmental toxins every week.
Oh, so it's really important to learn ways to control that, eliminate as many as possible, and what you can do to help get those toxins out of your body so you can feel your best.
And because of these toxins, more and more people are actually feeling the effects and suffering from chronic disease processes. And these illnesses will leave them nearly to a state of exhaustion, mental fogginess, anxiety, physical pain, and those are just among some of the symptoms that you may be experiencing from the environmental toxins around you that your body is accumulating and can't get rid of.
So let's take a minute to talk about how toxins can impact your health, right? We're all taught from a young age that toxic chemicals are harmful, but what you may not understand is how they impact your health. So let's talk about the endocrine system for a moment.
One of my favorites.
Yes, it is. The endocrine system is a collection of glands that produce hormones that regulate metabolism, growth and development, tissue function, sexual function, reproduction, sleep, mood, among other things. So one class of toxins can be described as endocrine disruptors. And
Right.
you like talking about endocrine disruptors.
Love talking about endocrine disruptors. I can just rattle off a whole bunch, like insecticides, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, plastic, heavy metal, country western. Just kidding. Alcohol, tobacco, all sweeteners, real and artificial, all the chemicals that they put in our food supply and in our makeups, and all these things that we're breathing in the air. And those are all endocrine disruptors. And when they get into your body and they attach to your endocrine organs, into the cells of the endocrine organs, it disrupts the endocrine system. And then people say, oh, I wonder why this isn't working properly.
Right. So some of the dangers that endocrine disruptors include or cause, you can have increase or decreasing in the production of certain hormones. You can have, it can imitate hormones, so your body can feel one way when it really doesn't have that going on. It can interfere with hormone signaling cells to die prematurely, which is not anything we really want to do.
We call that aging.
Right? We don't want that. And who wants to age faster than you need to?
No.
I know Us ladies don't, right? Can I get a high five on that? I know we don't. We're trying to do all the things to not look like we're aging, right? Anything else that I missed?
Oh, the big one, accumulating in organs, it'll disrupt hormones. That's really huge, like with liver. And liver is part of the endocrine system. And when you get endocrine disruptors that accumulate there, that throws off the way the endocrine system works and can lead to a whole host of other problems, including cancers, type 2 diabetes, inflammatory conditions as well.
Right. So, we just talked about some of the endocrine disruptors and what they did, right? From cancerous tumors also is another thing we didn't talk about. Toxins can lead to that as well.
Yes, it can.
Right? Anything else that I missed with that?
Yeah, hyperactivity like ADD, ADHD, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's disease, diabetes I already mentioned, cardiovascular disease, obesity, early puberty. We see that a lot, and it's considered normal. It's not normal, it's common for a young girl to get her period at age 9 and 10 now. That's common, not normal. Normal is 13, 14 years old. Other things are childhood and even adult cancers. You already mentioned that. Cancerous tumors from congenital disabilities and other developmental disorders. Endocrine disrupting toxins can have a huge impact on the systems in the body that are controlled by hormones.
And reproductive disorders as well. A lot of women, have trouble getting pregnant. They're trying to get pregnant. They can't. And a lot of it could just be the extra toxins that are being held into their body. And until you can figure out a way, which is something we do here, is help you remove those toxins. And once your body removes them and starts healing, now guess what? Woo,
body's healthy
you can have a baby,
to be able to carry a child. Yes.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about some of the top toxins. There's, like you said, how many did you say? 897 million? I don't know. You know me, I don't know the numbers. So
about 80,000 a week.
Or 80,000. It's close to 897 million. Whatever. We're going to talk about a few of the top toxins that you may or may not know about.
Well, bisphenol A, or BPA, that you get from plastics, is the top one on the list.
Yes.
And that was introduced by the chemical industry to make certain plastics and resins back in the 1960s. And the polycarbonate plastics that contain BPA, we often use those containers to store food, to store beverages such as water. And so BPA is a synthetic hormone, it is a hormone, that actually imitates estrogen in the body that will interfere with reproduction. So ladies, think about estrogen, right? What organs are sensitive to estrogen? Breast tissue.
For sure.
Cervical tissue, and uterus. For guys, it's the prostate. And so you really want to be careful about the BPAs that you're putting into your body because it may lead to an increased incidence of cancers in those parts of the body. Exactly. So where do you find all these BPAs? You want to avoid exposure to BPA because it's really challenging. It's actually all over the place. So you want to look for packaging that has BPA-free labels on it for your foods and your packagings. You want to avoid plastics marked with a PC. It'll have a PC in parentheses for polycarbonate, or the recycling label number 7. So if you're purchasing something, just look on the plastic container to see if it has a number 7 on there, or if it says PC, because that's going to tell you that it has BPA in the product as well. You want to use fresh, frozen, or dried products. You want to avoid microwaving your food in the plastic containers. That's a big one because that leaches. Just penetrates those plastic particles right into your food. Yep. So now you have, if you're taking anything in a plastic container and putting it in the microwave, a lot of the frozen foods that you can get out at the stores, they're all in plastic containers, and most people don't take that frozen particle out, scoop it out, and put it into a glass container. So if you're doing that on a regular basis, you're exposing yourself to a lot of BPA, and especially for women, that's a no-no. And here's a new one in preparing for this workshop that I learned. Don't wash your plastic containers in the dishwasher or use harsh detergents with them, because that will help leach them out and make them more permeable into our foods. Exactly. Then you put your foods in the plastic after running it in your dishwasher, and now you're eating more of that PBA and you have a bigger exposure. And then with toys for children, it's in a lot of the kids' toys as well. So if you can choose a wooden toy, I know that's kind of old-fashioned, and most people are like, oh, I don't want to do that.
But a lot of the plastic toys that children play with today,
What do they do with it?
oh yeah, especially the little ones. Their first thing it goes is in your mouth. You're chewing on it and all those things, and now they're at a very young age getting exposed to BPA. Number 2.
Phthalates.
So phthalates are a group of chemicals used to make plastics more flexible and harder to break. They're commonly found in plastic food containers, like we were talking about, children's toys, and makeup products. I know.
And our bodies have a signaling system to program cells to die as part of the normal health, right? Like red blood cells. We know they live to be 120 days, but if you put things into your body that damages them, they're not going to live to be 120 days, so they're going to turn over faster. And every cell in our body turns over on a regular basis. So according to Environmental Working Group, studies have shown that chemicals called phthalates can trigger what is known as death-inducing signaling, making the cells die earlier than they should. And what does that lead to? Aging, and that's something we don't want to do.
Exactly, and studies have also linked phthalates to hormone changes, lower sperm count, less mobile sperm, congenital disabilities in the male reproductive system, obesity, diabetes, and thyroid irregularities. So,
and we do see a lot of that in our office.
A lot. There's a lot. So how do you avoid phthalates, and how do you reduce your risk? You want to stop, we already talked about this, stop using the plastic food containers. Children's toys that are made of plastic, it's really not good. It's not good for little kids at all. And plastic wrap made from PVC, which has the recycling label number 3. So that's another thing to look out for. If it has a number 3 on it, you don't want to use that as well. It's important to read cosmetic and personal care product labels as well, because those also can be contaminated with that. And you want to pay attention to things that say fragrance, and it has fragrance in parentheses. It's a catch-all term, but it also means hidden phthalates. So it's important to pay attention to any of those kinds of things as well.
Now I want to get out my guitar and do a little head banging right now.
With a guitar?
Well, we're going to talk about heavy metal.
Oh, there you go. I knew there was something up your sleeve.
So trace amounts of heavy metal naturally exist in our bodies. They just do. However, increased exposure can pose significant health threats. Lead and mercury are the most common, the most frequent ones of heavy metal poisoning. Lead can cause neurological, gastrointestinal, kidney, and bone marrow toxicity, and neurodevelopment disorders. Mercury poisoning can be marked as headaches, low back pain, weaknesses, fatigues, tremors, even hallucinations. And so pregnant women are the ones that are most at risk from the toxic effect of mercury, since the metal is known to concentrate in the fetal brain tissue and can interfere with brain development. Sources of lead can be gasoline, while mercury sources include more dental, medical equipment, fertilizers, pesticides, amalgams, fillings, and of course seafood.
Yeah. So we're going to go over some tips that you can reduce lead and mercury. Reducing your exposure to lead.
You know, back growing up, Carol Miller was a DJ on the radio station out of New York, and every, I don't know what it was, Tuesday night or Thursday night, we had to get the lead out.
You did?
Yeah.
Were you removing toxins?
No,
or what
we're
were you
listening
doing?
to Led Zeppelin.
I figured that.
So this is about reducing toxins in the body, though.
Yes.
All right.
So find out when your home was built. If yours was before 1978, woodwork and other surfaces could be covered with lead paint. So it's important to know. Make sure though, if your home was built before 1978 and you have a suspicion that you have lead paint, you want to make sure you call an expert. If you want to remove it, don't try to do it yourself, because now you're going to be highly exposed again, right?
Right, because you'll get those lead particles back in the air, and that's what you don't want to do.
Exactly.
Next, a good water filter is really good, because that will reduce your exposure to lead in the drinking water.
Yep.
So that's a good way to do it.
And beware of tuna, which contain high levels of mercury. Eat seafood lower on the food chain, and if you take a fish oil supplement, be sure you're knowing where you're purchasing it, and you want to make sure that that company has a reputation for purity.
That's why we use standard process, because they're whole foods, they are not chemically processed, they're not heat processed, it's still a food source, and they are all checked multiple ways. When I say multiple, anywhere from 13 to 26 times from the time they start manufacturing to the time they bottle something to make sure that it is pure and has exactly what they said. And there's no other manufacturing company of a supplement company that can say that.
Right. And additionally, if you have amalgam fillings, you might want to discuss that with your dentist to see if whether it would be beneficial for you to remove them. I know most of us as children got all of that filled in their mouth and things like that. So you want to check, and you want to make sure that if you're checking with your dentist, that you want to make sure that if they do remove them, they're committed to following safe protocols for amalgam filling removal. Because if they're not versed in that, you don't want to have a extreme exposure to that. So it's important to pay attention to that.
I always recommend parotid PMG that we sell from Standard Process because that helps to chelate the metals in our body. And if somebody's having dental work to remove the amalgams, I always have them do parotid PMG for 2 weeks, the week before and the week after, and 6 tablets a day so that they can take that, and that'll help with making sure that the lead doesn't just expose.
Right.
I welcome.
Late.
Number 4.
Glycol ethers.
Am I on camera?
No, we are.
Oh.
That's right. Glycol ethers. They're commonly used in household cleaning products, cosmetics, and paints. The problem with this toxin is the glycol ethers, which can damage fertility, lead to congenital disabilities, and worsen allergies and asthma.
Yes. And a lot of times, there's at least people that, we deal with, they're like, oh my gosh, I have allergies, I have asthma, it's really bad. And I learned that they are usually extreme cleaners because they want to remove everything in their house and they are cleaning all the time, but they forget they're using bleach and they're using toxic chemicals when they're cleaning their home. But now you have this home that you think is clean, because clean shouldn't smell, let's just be real, it shouldn't be crazy like that. But now you have these toxic chemicals with your home all enclosed and you're breathing it in. So what seems to be asthma or allergy symptoms is really everyone being allergic to the cleaners
right?
that they have in their home. So that's a very important thing to pay attention to.
A great alternative thing to use for cleaning would be white vinegar, and I always like when you use white vinegar with some essential oils, so you get a good cleaning and also a better fragrance.
I'm glad you're saying that. I actually have a recipe put together for a natural cleaning solution that we're going to get to shortly. So
fantastic.
You've got half of the ingredients in there already,
yes.
So good job, right?
Not bad. See, I listen to you once in a while.
Actually. So when you're looking for natural cleaning alternatives, you already talked about a few things to look for, but we're also going to tell you what to make sure you're not purchasing as well.
Avoid.
Yes.
Yes. Number 5. How about radon? Radon is an odorless and tasteless radioactive gas, and it's produced from the decay of uranium, which exists in rocks and soil naturally. It can be found in homes, particularly in basements and other areas in contact with the ground. And so, some things you won't know whether your home is has radon in it unless you test for it. And it's worth testing for. Next to smoking, number 1, radon is the second most frequent cause of lung cancer. And so if there's radon gas in your home, what do? You just ventilate it, and that takes care of the issue.
Right. So some other ways you can reduce your radon exposure: seal the floors and walls.
And we're talking in the basement.
In the basement, yes. You want to increase underfloor ventilation and overall ventilation in your basement. Close the basement off from the rest of the house. Have your water tested through a drinking water testing laboratory. Radon can be removed through treatment technologies such as aeration and granular activated carbon.
That's right, aka charcoal.
Yep.
I like the fancy names. Number 6.
I know. I did this one for you, right? So you can say all the fancy technical names.
I
what
appreciate
you like.
that. Fire retardants. Those are toxic to us.
Yes.
There are more than 75, so that's funny.
Or
There are
75.
75 types, it's a new word, of brominated flame retardants, or BFRs, used commercially, from natural fiber to household furnitures and plastics. Unfortunately, they do not stick to the materials, but filter into your environment. And shockingly, numerous studies have reported have reported high levels of fire retardants in breast milk as well.
Yep.
So according to the Environmental Working Group, these incredibly persistent chemicals, known as polybrominated diphenyl ethers, or PBDEs, easier to say, have since been found to contaminate the bodies of people and wildlife around the globe, even polar bears that aren't even near any of this stuff.
Now the problem is that these chemicals can imitate and disrupt thyroid hormones in our bodies. Common sources include paint, textiles, paper, furniture, mattresses, electronics, office equipment, and carpet padding. So some of the things that we don't even realize as we're bringing into our home, that just in our furniture and things like that, you're being exposed to that as well.
You know, a good way to know is when you bring in new furniture, paint your place, new carpet, something like that, see how your body feels in the next week or two. And if you notice your health starting to deteriorate, air the place out. Even in the middle of winter, yes, it'll be a little more expensive for a week or two with the heating bill, or in the summer, air it out, a little more expensive with the air conditioner. But if you do those things and you're feeling your health decay a bit, air the place out, get some fresh air in there, and do your best to keep the toxins being removed.
Right. So some tips for reducing brominated flame retardants, BFRs, exposure includes purchase furniture and mattresses from organic material. I know sometimes that could be a little more expensive, but let's be real, when you put that furniture in your home, you don't usually have it for a week or two. Most people buy furniture, it's an investment, and it makes sense to invest in spending a little bit more to have organic material so you have a lot less toxic exposure. You want to get rid of products that include foam made before 2005.
Invest in a HEPA-sealed vacuum because that will trap the toxins when you use it.
Yeah. Avoid using a broom. This is kind of, most people don't think about this, but it just stirs the dust and accumulates toxin into the air. So even though it sounds great, I'll just scoop this up, now you're like bringing it back in the air and you're breathing things back in as well.
Right, because although as you're sweeping, you see the macromolecules accumulating, like the dog hair, the dirt and stuff, but what you're not seeing is you're knocking the dander and the toxins back up into the air, just as you said.
Exactly. And you also want to limit the amount of meat you consume. Poultry and red meat can contain high levels of BFRs. So most people don't realize that, but it can.
Organophosphates. Number 7.
Get that.
So this is a neurotoxic compound that's produced initially for chemical warfare during World War II. Nice. Think of, as we move forward, Vietnam War, Agent Orange. That was an organophosphate. And today, these chemicals are the main components of herbicides, pesticides, and insecticides because they target the nervous system of insects. Despite being classified as a societal health and environmental concern, agricultural use as pesticides on fruits and vegetables is still permitted. Organophosphates are also used in mosquito abatement in public spaces. I want to add a little bit to this. We look at DDT. DDT, now you remember as a little kid, right, for the mosquitoes, running through the DDT, and everyone in the audience is going, yeah, right? The spray, little van, or not the van, a little Jeep comes by, spraying out that fog, and you'd run into it as hard as you can, holding your nose, and then when you couldn't hold your breath anymore, you would go, and suck that in, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what were we thinking? But DDT has not been used in the United States for a long time, but we're still the #1 producer. If we're producing it, where's it going? So we're selling it to other countries, and then we're importing the produce from those other countries that are using DDT.
Wow.
So we see DDT poisoning when we check for it in a lot of people because they're eating fruits and vegetables that are being imported from other countries. So be careful where you're getting your foods, and always, if you can, try and go organic. Now, I understand organic can be expensive if you try and change everything over at once. So we always recommend, look at the top 5 things that you buy for your household food-wise, and make those top 5 things organic.
Right. It's an easy way to start changing things around. And studies have linked organophosphate exposure to adverse effects on the brain development, behavior, and fertility.
Maybe that's the issue for my behavior, running through those mosquito fleas.
Oh, well, there we go. Good thing you're not doing that anymore. Avoiding these harmful chemicals is very difficult. Your best is to buy organic produce, like we just talked about. The Environmental Working Group published a shopper's guide to pesticides and produce, which can help you find the fruits and vegetables that have the fewest pesticides. So if you want that link, let me know. It's kind of a long link. Oh, it's not on here. I'll post it in the comments for you, and you ladies, if you want that link, I can give it to you when we're done. It's www.ewg.org/food-news/.
Or send us an email and we'll send you the link.
Exactly. I can post it in the comments. Just if you're watching this live, just send me a message and I can post it in the comments if you want that as well. So you can see what fruits and vegetables have the fewest pesticides in them. So that could be a good start to what you want to start purchasing, even if you're changing just a couple things.
Great.
Number 8, my favorite number.
It is your favorite number. Particle pollution. Yeah, particle pollution. So our final toxin is particle pollution. Particle pollution can range from dust, mold, and fungus particles to chemical compounds and fuel emissions. You know, the number one source of air pollution in many cities we know is automobile emissions. However, the landscaping industry counts for about 10% of air pollution in the U.S. The worst culprit is the gas leaf blower, which is identified as one of the worst offenders. No offense to our gardeners and landscaper friends, but this is just fact.
Yep. And
the leaf blower can actually deposit 30% of its gasoline back into the air.
That's
So it's
pretty high.
not very fuel efficient. And
Yeah.
no offense to them. I mean, great job that there's something
Right.
that we needed and they're doing stuff that some of us aren't
And they
doing.
probably don't know.
And they don't know because this is not stuff that is out there regularly talked about.
Yeah, countless studies have been done on the effects of particle pollution in health. Common effects include wheezing and coughing, shortness of breath, and lung tissue swelling, which can contribute to the development of heart and lung disease, asthma attacks, and lung cancer. So people don't realize that, think about in the spring, the fall, when you have a lot of the landscape companies coming out, and everybody always says, my allergies are so bad, I can't catch my breath, I'm starting to have all these asthma attacks. Well, let's think about it.
Pollution.
Particle pollution. You've got them. I mean, I know you can go down our street and you could have, 3 or 4 people at the same time and they're all going in the house and everything's happening. And then you're like, oh, I can't breathe, right? Well, that's one of the reasons why. So it's a reason why. So some of the ways that you can avoid them, because we're surrounded by air all the time, we have to breathe in air, right? It's difficult to remove the pollutants from our environment. So here's some steps that you can try to help reduce that. You want to go, I guess?
Can I share?
Sure,
Okay.
of course.
So swap out some of the gas-powered lawn maintenance equipment with electrical or battery-powered.
Right?
Okay.
Okay.
Take public transportation and carpool whenever possible to lessen the contribution to the environment pollution. We carpool.
Yes, we do. Taking public transport. Oh, you already said that.
Yeah.
Checking fuel burning furnaces, hot water heaters, and gas ranges in your home annually to make sure the exhaust systems are adequate. Because a lot of us do have gas ranges or gas fireplaces, hot water tanks. You want to make sure that your exhaust system is working properly. Otherwise, those toxins are going and filling up your home and you're breathing them in, which are not great for you.
And the newer ones are even more fuel efficient. And so if you have one that's decades old, maybe consider changing out to a newer one for that fuel efficiency.
You want to also prevent mold from growing in your home by monitoring your humidity levels, especially in the basement and the bathrooms. And you want to address any kind of water-stained areas because that's letting you know you've got the extra water, which will turn to mold. So you want to pay attention to those things and take care of that as soon as possible if you notice it.
The bottom line.
Dun, dun, dun.
So environmental toxins, hopefully you've discovered now, are downright dangerous. Ongoing research findings report that their ability to feed cancer cells, interfere with glucose and cholesterol metabolism, and induce insulin resistance. And if you look at some of the top conditions that are being treated for, what do we have? Type 2 diabetes, cholesterol metabolism, insulin resistance. These are things, and lots of cancer. And these things are being treated for because of the environmental toxins that we're being exposed to.
Exactly. Environmental toxins have also been identified as the culprit for obesity through multiple mechanisms, including inflammation, oxidative stress, mitochondrial injury, altered thyroid metabolism, and impaired central appetite regulation. So people aren't even realizing that being exposed to all these toxins can be causing you to become more obese as well. So, you want to make sure that you're finding ways to eliminate the toxins and lessen your exposure as much as possible.
And if you look at what we do, many times we'll get patients that come in that have thyroid issues, and I use quotes, with that. But when we check their thyroid, we find that their thyroid isn't dysfunctional. It's more a liver dysfunction. And so what's happening is your liver is your body's main filter. It's struggling to filter out these environmental toxins, but your thyroid hormone, T4, mainly turns to T3 in the liver. And if the liver can't work right, it can't process that T4 to T3, throws off the function of the pituitary to the thyroid in the liver, and you go and have a blood test and say, well, you have a thyroid problem. So they put you on a thyroid medication. Great, another thing that the liver has to try and break down and detoxify. And that actually compounds the problem. Whereas if you just took time to clear out the body, little detox, and I have back here SP Cleanse or SP Detox Balance Shake, those things help to clear out the liver so that our bodies can work better, detoxify better. And usually what we find most times is when we work on somebody and the liver clears out, the thyroid condition that supposedly there goes away because you can have normal function.
Exactly. It's really crucial to know your level of risk when it comes to environmental toxin exposure. And in our office, we can also check for that. So if you've been suffering from things like allergies, asthma, fatigue, headaches, just unexplained things that you're just like, I'm not feeling great, I don't know what's going on, you could have been exposed for a long time. We can actually check to figure out exactly what toxic chemical is stressing your body, give you the right whole food supplements and nutrition to remove that from your body so your symptoms go away and you're not just filled with all these toxins that are causing all the symptoms that you don't want to have.
Correct.
Right? Miss anything?
No.
All right. So, what are some steps we can take? We'll give you a few tips.
So the best way is to maximize your phytonutrient intake by eating whole foods, especially cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, bok choy, kale, Brussels sprouts, fruits high in antioxidants like dark leafy green vegetables, berries, garlic, onions, because they will help to detoxify your body.
Exactly. And you want to avoid plastics at all costs. This one can be very tricky as we become a society that's heavily reliant on plastic. Use stainless steel water bottles, glass containers for storing your leftover food, and instead of buying water in plastic bottles, install a water filter in your home. It's worth spending a little bit of money to do that because for one, you're not going to have the plastics everywhere because not everyone's recycling. And all of those toxins, especially when those water bottles are getting transported all over the place and then they get heated up, you're on a truck, it's getting heated up, and now you're drinking all the chemicals all day long.
It's like leaving the water bottle in your car during the summer. As it heats up, the plastic leaches quicker into the water, and then you go instantly and drink it.
Exactly.
How about detoxifying your home with natural, simple products? You can make your own cleaning products and care products, and a homemade all-purpose cleaner, as I said before, was distilled vinegar, the white vinegar, and some type of essential oil, like a lavender or tea tree. But you also want to put some hydrogen peroxide in there, and liquid cast iron.
So it's actually, like I said, so it's 3/4 cups of hydrogen peroxide.
H2O2.
Yep. A 1/2 cup of distilled white vinegar. 1 teaspoon of unscented liquid cast-iron soap. You can use 10 drops of tea tree oil, 20 drops of lavender essential oil,
That'll smell really
and
nice.
2 cups of water. So if you want your home to smell good, but you're not having toxic chemicals, you'd want to use that. And I'm going to put a little plug in. All essential oils are not the same.
they
So
are
going to, I'm not going to say names, going to a local store that's carrying them for $3 is probably not going to be something.
It's probably mineral oil with fragrance.
And
which is
remember we
chemical.
talked about fragrance? Don't use that because now you're putting chemicals into your cleaner. So we use doTERRA essential oils. because they are of the utmost highest quality and go through third-party testing as well. So when you're using your essential oil, make sure you're using a pure product that you can actually consume. So
Right.
if you can't, don't put that in your cleaning products, because now you're having more chemicals as well. And the last thing we're going to talk about,
Exercise and hit the sauna. Sweat it out. You know, the more you sweat, the more toxins you can remove from your body. You know, one of the bad things that we produce in our environment, in our society, is antiperspirants, which don't allow you to sweat, which means you're going to accumulate toxins in your armpits. Well, the antiperspirants have aluminum salts in there, which are not good for our bodies. That's what keeps us from sweating. And so it's okay to sweat. Obviously, we don't want to be going into a big meeting and be like dripping, but it's important that we perspire on a regular basis.
you want to get the toxins out of the body, right?
Right.
And
my favorite,
yes,
take high quality supplements. Take supplements that are whole food, not from the store, but whole food supplements that are made from whole food. So a whole food supplement is, if it says it's made of broccoli and Brussels sprouts, and you go and check it with a lab, the lab's going to find two things: broccoli and Brussels sprouts. Okay, there's no heat processing, no chemical processing, no adulteration of the broccoli or Brussels sprouts. It's just dehydrated at a low temperature, pulverized into a powder and mixed into a tablet or capsule so that you can superfeed the body. And it's so important. Ones that are important would be multivitamins, zinc, vitamin C, and B complex. And you can't buy whole food supplements in the stores that activate the way they're supposed to in the body. Can I give an example?
you sure can.
Thanks. Vitamin C. When you go to the store, you're buying ascorbic acid. That's one of 8 components that vitamin C needs. A big thing that vitamin C does in the body is it takes oxygen from our lungs and puts it into our bloodstream. Huge. Ascorbic acid that you buy in the store does not do that. Cannot. It's not active. So that's why you need a whole food supplement that has all the components of what a vitamin complex should have.
Right. Well, I think we've covered a lot today,
Yes.
right? So I want to thank you guys for joining us today.
And thank you for our in-studio audience.
Of course.
That's awesome.
Yes. The knowledge of environmental toxins can be very overwhelming since we're so exposed to so much all the time. So if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to ask us. You can drop them in the comments. Ask us anything you have so we can make sure we can answer any questions that you may have about toxins. If you think well, we all know we're exposed, but if you're suffering symptoms of environmental toxins, schedule an appointment for a consultation in our office. We'd be happy to chat with you, go over what your conditions are, what your health concerns are, and see how we can help you so we can remove those toxins from your body and help you live the life that you want to live. So that's it. That's all I have for today.
That's all I got.
Right.
I'm Dr. Dave.
And I'm Amy
And we want to be your inspiration.
for Healthy Living.
Have a great day.
Thank you.